All right. So this one we're going on about lithium mining here in America. We'll call this one Rotten Moon.
Yeah. Speaking of lithium, you know where they have like the largest lithium deposits in
I
the
know
world?
one of them's in Reno.
Well,
Afghanistan.
no. This is even a bigger one. It's in, I believe it's Peru,
Okay.
South America, but it's been, is it nationalized where the government takes over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And that kind of lends into my story because I personally feel that a lot of things that are extracted from the soil should be naturalized. So in America, I feel like oil companies or mines, specifically things like that, should be nationalized. And that money, instead of going to overseas companies, should go basically back into America. Imagine if they had a lithium mine and it was owned by the government, and all the lithium that they mined and sold would go to instead of you having to pay taxes, they would take that money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It would go to fund the government, basically.
Kind of like what that Nordic country did, Norway with the oil.
Yeah, exactly. Alaska does something very similar.
Well, they do a mix though. I like Norway's because they do a mix of, it's run technically as a private organization, and then the government owns essentially like half of it.
Like the majority shares.
But then they
Well, they put it into the market, and it's gaining all that interest.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's backed by the government.
Well, because they use it to fund
The social programs.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. All right. So one of the largest reserves in America is in Nevada, a place called Thatcher Pass. Pihi Mohang, that's I guess how you pronounce it in the local tongue,
Okay.
means rotten moon.
Rotten Moon.
Yep. So the whole process right now is tied up in courts, sued by two tribes, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony and People of the Red. Apparently BLM approved the mine in late December, basically the last week or two of the Trump presidency.
And just to be clear, Bureau of Land Management.
BLM, in this instant, we're referring to Black Lives the Bureau of Land Management, yes. Most of the time when we speak of it, we'll try to make a distinction, but in this case specifically, it is the Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah.
Is it on the reservation or not?
It is on what these native people consider sacred land. Because a battle was fought there, and because of the way they feel about the valley itself, they never recovered the dead. So it's basically like a gravesite.
I thought they called it Rotten Moon.
That's why. Because of the way people died in this pass, they never went back. It was that kind of thing. And that's why they call it the Rotten Moon.
We're here to clean it up.
They're claiming that it violates the National Historic Preservation Act, which means the tribes are consulted on economic impact and things that it might have on them or their land, basically.
Yeah.
And they weren't consulted about efforts to mitigate that damage, and that's basically what the lawsuit is about. BLM claims it has consulted with the 3 recognized tribes, and company says the 2 tribes aren't recognized. Now, one of the reasons I brought this up is that this is a twofold part, because the company has already spent $10 million just on permitting for the process to mine in this area. And not only was it hastily pushed through and done kind of on shady means, because it wasn't done through the normal channels, it was rushed through, waiting hours of the Trump presidency, somebody trying to capitalize on this. Now here's where it gets even funnier. Besides the $10 million, which we'll come back to, but that's one of the points I want to talk about, is the owner/consultant, Alexei Zawodowski, Canadian-based.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, right? So this company, which is called Lithium Nevada Corp, is a Canadian-Chinese hybrid project owned by a company called Minera XR, which is a joint venture between Ganfeng Lithium and Minera XR, XR, that's what this Lithium Nevada Corp is a joint venture between this Chinese company and this Canadian company to extract lithium from America. For profit for them.
Right.
And because they paid somebody off, they got the rights to it,
Right.
and all this profit's going to go overseas. Now, they didn't have a lot of projected outcomes for this mine specifically, but this joint venture owns 2 other lithium mines. One of them is called Jujay Lithium Brine Project, and another one, I think, there's 3 altogether. But the reason I brought this up is this Jujay is expected to produce about the same amount as this Thatcher mine, right?
Yeah.
And so here's what they have projected. This is for the Jujay mine. It was a $641 million investment. They say it's going to cost per ton $3,579 to extract 1 ton of lithium.
Right.
They're going to sell it for $12,000 a
4
ton.
times.
And then even on top of that, the mine is set to put out, it's called 40,000 TPA, which is ton per annum. It's a weird industry term, but what I get is it's basically 40,000 tons per year for 40 years. So to do some quick math on that, you take how much they're projected to make off of each ton, minus the
12,000.
cost to get it, which is 8,421, that's what you're left with. Times that by 40,000, which is $337 million a year, is what this mine's projected
Times
to put
40
out.
years.
Times 40 years
Yeah.
is what it's projected to make.
Oh yeah.
And so that's kind of where I want this to go. This is why I brought it up. For one, this is hurting the market share, because just to start a mine, just to open a mine on your own land, you have to have $10 million worth of permits you have to fill out. That is a law put there by mining companies to stifle competition.
Coal
Most
mining
people,
companies.
even if you own your own land, you don't typically own mineral rights.
You don't own the mineral rights to it, on top of other things. But you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you let the market write its own laws.
You know what's funny though? I'm sure those laws were written by coal mines owners,
yeah.
and they didn't transition from coal mining to lithium mining. It's kind of
Yeah, they're kind of getting bitten in the ass now because something
because they
happened.
were already in it. They have the practice, the know-how, how to mine. They probably have the tools and equipment.
The tools and equipment, which
Right.
is big. A lot
You
of
would have thought they would have transitioned over into. It's ironic that now these American companies that are going belly up, coal mining companies.
now because
Now
you're
you
right.
have
Now you-
outside companies coming in and doing the things that we should have been doing. With
Yeah,
all of that.
you nailed it right on the head. You're not going to have a local startup do this. This isn't going to be a
costs so much
handful
money,
of
just
American
$10
guys
million
getting
or-
together. $10 million just to file the permits.
Yeah.
And you know good and well, you don't get that money back. If you spend your $10 million and you don't win the bid or you don't get the contract, you're out that $10 million.
Plus everything else that goes along with
Plus
it.
the lawyer to write it up, the
Well-
accountant to crunch the numbers.
Well, not just that, but I mean all the equipment, the hiring, the training, all the overhead.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I mean, well, with EPA laws, it's basically impossible to start a mine.
it sounds like
Well, it's
this Canadian
impossible.
company
No. It's impossible for somebody that doesn't have $640 million to invest in a fucking mine.
Well, that's
and
what
the
I'm saying,
right
like,
right people to shake
Right.
hands with.
yeah, that's part of it. Is you have to comply with all the EPA laws and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
like you can't just
Well, then that's
mine your own land and then
Well, an EPA, like, it's complying with those laws is not a bad thing. That it ensures that
No,
we're
I
doing
agree.
things safe for the
Yeah,
community and
I
the
was
families
just saying,
that
like,
live around it.
because of those though, like it is
Right.
like you couldn't just like do your
But
own
it's-
mine.
To a point, let's grant you that. But we have a very reactive government. Governments don't proactively write EPA laws. They write an EPA law because some mine poisoned a town, because some mine caught a river on fire,
Mhm.
because some mine dumped a bunch of shit illegally. They have to write these laws.
Kids are developing tumors and cancer.
A number of things that have happened throughout the
Respiratory
last 100
problems.
years.
That's happening right now in Texas.
So don't say, oh, burdensome regulations. These burdensome regulations were put there because...
I'm not arguing against
No,
it.
we're not saying you.
Yeah,
We're saying
just-
the people
yeah,
out there
that's a
that
very
would
popular
complain
argument.
about.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I was going to ask you. With these outside companies coming
This
in, how are their
Canada-China company.
Canada-China company? How are their environmental practices where they mined elsewhere? I mean,
Well, what I
are
hate
they-
about the Chinese companies is,
'Cause you know
like,
they're not
I
doing
can't
well.
invest in a Chinese company.
You
They
can
don't
invest
let-
in some Chinese companies.
Well, like, but they're very,
Yeah.
they're very controlled.
Well,
like,
that's
you
the
can't
thing.
own a business in China. Like,
Well,
an American
even-
company.
There's a law in America to trade on a company on an American, like the stock market. You have to have a certain amount of transparency in your company. You have to release certain information. And Chinese companies, while I'm sure take that information, they don't release it. And so that's why a lot of Chinese companies can't trade in America. You can't own part of a Chinese company. They're not on the stock market because they don't release the information that's required.
Yeah, like, I don't think we should let Chinese companies in the United States.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
But
China
I
owns
think we
mines,
should
farms,
hold them to
all
the
kinds
same
of stuff they're
standards
pulling
that
out of our
They
soil.
hold, like, the rest of the world to, and that's that, you know, like, if, like, Blizzard, for example, when they went into China, they had to give up 10% of their company to the Chinese government as a condition of them, like, even being able to go into the Chinese market. So I just, if China is not going to play by the rules like most of the world community does, I don't think we should let, China buy a mine in the United States. Like,
I don't think foreign companies should be allowed
Well,
to buy
I mean,
mines or oil.
I don't know
or
about, like,
farms
definitely
or any
not
of that stuff.
antagonistic foreign, governments for sure. I mean, like, with the whole
We could rent
scandal
them,
of Russia doing the uranium mining in Canada.
my only like pushback on this is that I've seen what, including U.S. Based companies, what they do, and when they go into other countries to extract natural resources, especially oil.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how much they pollute the land.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you think it would be
Well,
any
you
different
can't
here if
get
the laws
away.
were in place? You can't. It's not the EPA laws that are stopping people from opening a mine. It's the $10 million in fucking fees you
Well, no,
have to do
I'm
just
talking
to
about, like,
What I was getting at is again how are they going to control the waste that comes from producing lithium? Because it does produce waste.
Oh, I'm sure
tons.
any mine
Right.
does.
Yeah, I mean, that's
No,
like
but-
strip mining.
But then again, I mean, I know lithium is not as toxic, but there are some toxic levels. But I watched a very short video. I think you've seen it with me on YouTube. They were talking about how they can take the waste and then render it and make another chemical out of it that they could use. So they because there's large, and it requires a lot of water to mine lithium.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because what they do is
they
they
grind it up slurry like with gold or something.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It does become a slurry. The lithium rises to the top, and then they scrape
Skim
that
the
off,
top,
right?
yeah.
Skim the top, and then what's left is the water that they use. But they were talking about reusing that water and then turning it back to like
Yeah, because that's
potable,
toxic stuff.
Potable.
Yeah.
potable water.
Yeah, drinkable water.
Right.
Water.
Or even for irrigation is what they were talking about.
Well, irrigation's there's a lot lower standard for it,
Right.
but there's also problems with that because a lot of irrigation is for produce, and produce doesn't get treated. Like if you use tainted water to grow tomatoes, and they put it in a salad,
Mhm.
that's where you get E. coli outbreaks and things
I
like
think
that.
that's more shit in your salad. E. coli.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Well,
what I'm
it's
saying.
like-
That's not
like
clean
how-
water.
how
They're
would
not
they-
using clean water to irrigate their crops.
Well, they wouldn't just reuse it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have to.
No,
treat it.
there's there's a treatment for it, but there's like when they do natural gas or fracking,
Mhm.
they use a lot of water for that, and they can't recycle that water like they can with lithium water. That's the difference, and they have to dump
and-
those. So they just dump it. I don't know.
To your question, I think they'll have to follow all of our EPA guidelines. So if you're going to run a mine in America,
Yeah.
even if you're owned by an outside country, you're still going to have to follow American guidelines.
And that was my point. Like, if you wanted to just have like a small mine on your own land, why you couldn't? Like, there's no way that they could follow the EPA guidelines and like make it, which is, you know.
Well, it depends on
Oh.
if you're digging up something on your own land, you're probably not using all the chemical baths and because a big part of mining things, even lithium.
Well, that's the thing. Like mining, yeah, it's hard to mine just a little bit of something. Like,
Well, it's not cost effective to mine a little bit of something.
yeah,
Because if it costs $600 million to start up all this giant
other
mining,
than like panning gold. I mean, gold's really the only one that you can without mine without.
Even with all of our EPA laws,
it's still going to be bad.
right?
Yeah,
I
there's no
mean,
argument
I
with
just saw recently a documentary on Netflix. There's a chemical-based plant in Texas, like right in the peninsula, right next to the ocean, and it's polluting the air so bad that there's a town right next to it, and it's affecting all the kids. They're starting to develop respiratory problems. The guy who was in charge of making sure that certain, because you're allowed so many pollutants in the air, right? Per square or cubic measurement.
parts per million.
Parts per million, right? Well, he caught the company, fabricating the numbers, right? Fudging the numbers and stuff like that, and he became a whistleblower for it. And he got fired.
Yeah, which is against the law.
Right, and then but nothing happened to the company, and it's still operating to this day. The company's from Singapore, from what I remember.
Yeah,
And the thing that brings me up is like we do have these laws, but they're not enforced.
Well, that's
And I don't want for it to continue.
Yeah, you bring up another very good point in this very same vein. So here's the problem with that. So you have conservative legislatures that are always crying, save money, small government, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't mean like, let's shrink the army, let's do less on foreign aid. They mean let's cut regulatory agencies.
Right.
Let's have the EPA.
That's the smaller government.
Yeah, that's the smaller government they want. Less oversight, less regulation. The parts of the government what the government is supposed to do, which is make sure the air is clean, the food is safe, the water. Excuse me, let me grab my phone. Okay. That kind of thing. They're supposed to educate, build roads, build hospitals, keep people clean and safe, protect the borders. That's what government does.
Right.
It's when you have this, when it becomes cheaper for a company to just dump the toxic waste because the fines max out at $2 million. So to a normal person, $2 million seems like a lot.
Yeah.
To a large company dumping toxic
It's what
waste,
they make in 2 minutes.
they spend twice that actually doing it. So they save money because they're
Right.
dumping it illegally,
Getting
because
the
it
fees.
costs more
Right.
to do it.
And that's why a lot of people are against like big manufacturing and mining here because there will inevitably be, even with all the regulations, there will still be.
You got
environmental
well.
It could be done a lot better.
Well, the thing is, it's enforcing.
Enforcement.
That's-
That's exactly it. Those are those regulatory committees that are always getting cut. The enforcement part, the guy to go out and actually inspect, and then give them the authority to actually do stuff about it. But a lot of that gets cut in the face of small government saving money. But really, it's just to make it easier for out-of-country companies to pollute in America. That's what it comes down to. They buy influence in the government, and that's what it bought them. The ability to own all this, and I didn't look it up, but how many mines in America do you think are owned by foreign companies? How many oil wells in America are owned by foreign companies? How many farms in America are owned by foreign companies?
Yeah, well, a
More
lot of the
than you
oil
would.
ones are U.S. companies, not all of them, I'm sure.
Well, BP, that big oil spill, is British
Louisiana,
Petroleum.
yeah.
What about that one that just happened in California? Was that an American company?
It was, yeah.
But I mean, the BP one wasn't. There's oil spills and shit that happen all the time. That pipeway they wanted to build from Canada to Texas or whatever, that wasn't American oil.
No.
That was fucking a Canadian company to a Chinese fucking dock. Don't get me started on that. And you're going to build a giant pipeway right through the middle of America? I mean, just the economic and ecological impact of doing something like that. If one waterway gets messed up, you're already cost more than you'd ever make from that. If you block one river, you're going to lose so much from just that. And that's kind of why I brought it up, because I don't think foreign companies should be able to own land. Or maybe not own land, but extract things from them.
Well, I'm not thrilled about.
Well, they bring their practices of what they've done in their land, where they're very lax EPA laws. So they bring that mentality over to America. And that's how I felt with that documentary.
Yeah, see, that's a very fair point. So that's just one of many problems that arise with this. A lot of it is with China. We're just going to be buying all this crap back from them in one form or another. So it's we don't make anything when they extract it, and then we buy it from them. It's like we could just extract it ourselves and buy it from us.
But that's where we come back to that problem is us extracting it. Who's going to do it? Because it costs so much money.
Well, that's why
so
I'm saying this is the kind of thing that a government should do.
Because we go to foreign countries.
The EPA could be pulling this fucking lithium out of the ground, and they could have their own standards. That they
one of the biggest reason they're using lithium is for the electric cars.
For batteries, electric cars or those new like Tesla wall batteries for houses and stuff.
Right.
Because now houses can totally grew off grid. Yeah.
I think.
And smartphones.
You think you would have some sort of in the green? Yeah, they call it the Green New Deal, but it's the $3.4 trillion.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I know what you're talking about.
Right. You think it would be in there to, instead of having foreign markets come in and mine our own land, since we're going to be spending this much infrastructure, the infrastructure bill.
We use $600 million, half a bill, fucking start a mining company, pay people really well to do it,
so it's an American
do it
company
clean, efficiently, effectively, with American workers and American borders, and then we can sell it for 4 times as much money overseas and bank all that cash instead of doing the exact opposite.
Right.
Is for this company pays $10 million one time, and then they get to pull $300+ million worth of lithium every year out of the earth, and then sell it back to us. These are going to be those cheap Chinese fucking batteries everybody's going to be bitching about in 2 years.
A grant put in through where they're not going to give you all of the upfront cost money, but it's a lending hand to help you start the mining program.
Shovel-ready jobs.
Right.
And you could taper it with equipment as the economy needs it. So say you're in a recession, you need 10,000 jobs, you turn off all the bulldozers and you have guys out there doing it by hand. So you're going to need 5 times as many guys to do it. But you're still going to make a ton of cash.
Yeah, but we're not going back. We're not going backwards when it comes to the mining company. They're going to have 500 people with shovels. They'll still use machinery. The lithium game, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Oh, I was thinking we should buy a ton of lithium now and
like
just sit on it. Yeah. What's lithium going to be worth in 10 or 20 years?
Well, I mean, it's going to peak and it's going to drop just as fast, if not quicker than it going up. Because they're already finding new ways to store energy as battery packs that are.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of companies banking on lithium being around for a while.
Well, it's going to be on for a while because the technology that I've seen is they're using graphite because that's a great conductor of electricity in and out. Like when you charge and it goes out to power your car and to take charge back in, it takes less time. It holds a larger charge, so your range is 10 times longer instead of 200
it charges
miles.
Faster, and you can go farther.
Right, and they actually last longer. But the only problem is that it's hard to make right now. It's very expensive. But eventually, they're going to come up with the technology where that's going to take over lithium. And once that does take over, then lithium is just going to crash. But right now, it's on upstream. That's why you're having these companies come in, even to America, with their strict EPA laws. They've done the math.
Their math is actually on the website. It's so easy to find the stuff. And I kind of take those numbers with a grain of salt, because this is what they're saying. These are projected numbers.
Right.
But I mean, even if it's half this, you're still talking, 1.6 billion, or I'm sorry, $160 million.
But this is like a perfect way to grow your economy.
Yeah.
Lower your unemployment numbers.
Get all those coal miners that are going out of work.
Mm-hmm.
They know the business, they have the equipment. You could transition them into lithium. You could do it smarter than they did with coal, because we're more socially conscious and economically friendly, or
And
whatever.
at the same time,
It was only so environmentally friendly that you can mine stuff.
And that's very true. But
environmental impact.
let's be real. I mean, you're going to need to mine stuff sometime.
yeah. But if done properly, you can mitigate a lot of those damages.
Exactly.
I agree with mining. I'm just saying there will be a cost to it.
Right. But at the same time, I wouldn't want the old coal mining owners. For them, I want a new blood.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
mine,
No old men, that's the deal.
Yeah.
Can't be above 50.
But wherever there's money, there's always going to be corruption. Doesn't matter.
Well, but if you had more regulation and oversight,
It goes back
and
to
better funded
enforcement,
agencies,
right.
yeah, more enforcement, IRS enforcement, EPA enforcement. That's what the government's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be spending $1 trillion a year overseas on war. We're supposed to be spending that money at home, making sure everything's good here.
But again, I think putting something like that in the infrastructure, because it's not infrastructure, but it does
kinda
add
infrastructure.
to employment.
It's infrastructure in a few ways, because like you said, it would be jobs,
Right.
but it's literally building things in America. Building a 40-year mine, that's infrastructure, because that's that many jobs for 40 years.
Mhm.
And then it's something we're going to be using a ton of in the future.
Right.
That's building infrastructure, because here in America, we'll have the means and the ways to produce it.
And it's new now, but electric cars, it's just going to take
Well, that's
more and more companies.
That's what this is basically is. These are electric car batteries. That's what's going to be. Half of it's going to be, or it's going to be phones. It's going to be electric cars.
There's a country, I forgot, it could be Norway, where they've gone. I just read the headline, but I could be wrong. But 100% electric vehicle ownership now is in one of these countries.
Well, here's the problem with that
Some of
too.
those countries are so small.
Right,
population.
but they don't have gasoline or petrol burning vehicles anymore.
But that you're no to cut there.
Cut there and there.
Yeah, we'll just get back into it. So, so like you were saying, it is infrastructure. That is the definition of infrastructure, because the electric cars, that's what the future is going to be. But when a country it goes 100% electric, I don't know. What if you have like an old diesel truck you like to take out, romping or
So
something?
that's going to be the big thing with when they go self-driving. Because self-driving really only works really effectively if everybody has self-driving.
Well,
There's no way.
no. They can make self-driving cars that can drive around.
They can, but the
Self-drivers
safest
or whatever.
The safest way is for everybody to be
And you're not going to
self-driving.
catch me. It's taking a taxi is one thing, but I love driving. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, we're going to have to make
Obviously, you haven't
choices
been
as
driven.
society where it's like...
I've been, like Uber and stuff.
Yeah,
I've
not
taken
having
plenty
to
of trips.
worry about
And,
driving, just sitting back.
But if you're going to Vegas, for example, you want to sit in the back seat, or you want to drive.
Yeah.
So I want to drive.
Well, I'm sure they'll have like places where you can drive, but it will be like you go to drive, like a racetrack.
little bumper cars and
Simulator.
stuff. Yeah.
This is what it used to be.
Uh-huh.
You behind the wheel. It's
You're
so
just
dangerous.
stuck in traffic. This is the traffic signal.
You know what's funny? That's what it's gonna be like. Maybe our kids or our kids' kids, where everything's going to be self-driving, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll have either simulators or videos of.
They'll have a driver's lane, and then all the rest of it will be.
No, I'm saying where they. That's how Grandpa used to drive. They were, they were behind the wheel. Oh my God, all the car crashes that we always have. Yeah. What
I
were
spent a lot of
they
time driving. I don't have many car crashes.
Because we look at things like in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe they used to do that.
Drive around without seatbelts.
Or throw the
What's
kids in the
that
back
wheel
of the
in the
truck.
front of the car? Like in the, what's that wheel for? Oh, that's.
Well, kids don't even know what a rotary phone is now.
Yeah, those are such funny videos. Watching kids like trying to figure it out.
Right.
Do you guys remember the old Corvairs, the deadly at any speed car? Does that sound where the trunk's in the front, and so the steering column goes right to the front, and if you hit anything over 5 or 10 miles an hour in the front, the steering column just gets pushed through your chest.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was more than 5 or 10 miles.
No, it was like, that's why they call it deadly at any speed. Because
like a Pinto where it can get rear-ended at 10 miles an hour and the gas tank can explode.
Right.
And then, because of things like that, they write these burdensome regulations where cars have to be safe from rear impacts. And then you have a company or a branch of the government that would go through and inspect companies to make sure that they're adhering to these rules. That's what the government's